Hello, everyone. How are y'all doing? So today I want to talk about grief and loss and being alone, and we'll see what else arises. The reason why I'm wanting to talk about these topics today is because my beloved little kitty, who has been unwell and dying at far too young an age, disappeared yesterday, and I'm nearly certain that he's taken himself away to die. I could tell the day before just looking at him. Excuse me. So, obviously that brings up a lot. And he was, animals are such profound little beings because they are really the embodiment of unconditional love. They don't ask anything of you, really. Some animals, my other cat, a little bit more needy, but in general, they're just so loving and giving and forgiving, and they're such amazing teachers. And my cat was certainly a presence that was the most consistent thing in my life over these last 2 to 3 years, and especially going through lockdowns and all of these things, he was just always there. And so it's brought up a lot of sadness that I opened the door and he hasn't been there the last 2 days, and it's my heart aches. But looking at like what is death and grief and loss and this feeling of loneliness that we experience when we lose love, when love that we've had physically is no longer there from one day to the next, from one moment to the next. And I think we live in I think Western culture isn't great with death. If Eastern philosophy, I think, has a more holistic approach to death, or it's more inclusive of death as a part of life. I think about what Liz Gilbert said, and because she's spoken a lot about grief because she lost her partner, her beloved, and she was saying something like, death is the only guarantee in life. The only thing that is absolutely guaranteed is that we're all going to die at some point. And yet when it happens, we're all like, oh, what? No, they died? What? This shock of death. And, I understand that we're shocked because when it happens, it's so jolting. But I think the point that she was trying to make was it's as if we don't even expect that death is going to happen, right? And yet it happens. It will happen. It's just a matter of when and how and the timing of things, but it is a part of life. And I think, the hardest aspect of death it's actually more for the people that are left behind, because all of a sudden the love that you were used to, the love that you felt, feels like it's lost. It's not there anymore. And we're attached to the physicality. We're attached to physical form. And especially if we don't have the perspective that we are more than these bodies, we are an energy, we are a consciousness that is immortal and infinite and always connected. So from that perspective, there is no loss, but there's the loss of the physical. And that's totally normal and okay. And that's what we grieve. We grieve the fact that we can't touch them, smell them, speak with them, no matter if it's an animal or a human being. We can't feel it in the same way. Yet I have to say that when my grandmother passed, I think I felt her presence around me more than I had ever in my life, which just goes to show that energy is profound, and it doesn't even need to have a scientific equation to prove that it exists. Just feel, and it's there. Although actually what's brilliant is that consciousness is actually being scientifically proven now, which is very cool. Very, very cool. I'm very excited about that, because what I've felt and believed my entire life is like, okay, some people require proof for it. So, here we go. Anyway, that's a tangent. So what is it about grief and loss and death? It's very interesting for me to, he's been ill for several months now. But the weekend he chooses to disappear and die is the weekend that I'm alone. Like my partner's not here, my daughter's not here. And so it's like, okay, I have to grieve on my own. And that for me triggers a lot, because anyone that knows the Enneagram, I'm a 4. I've had to work through the I'm alone bit. I did a lot of that work in my 20s. So I know that, and I've had a lot of experiences in my life where I've felt alone, or where I've had to do things alone, or where I've physically been alone. And I'm getting to the point now where I'm like, okay, I think I've learned that lesson. I think, like, please, universe, can you just like pass me on that exam and like let me get on to the next course, because like I think I got that one. I think I've learned it. But yet it's like, shit, here I am again, and all I want is a hug. But it's like, no, Corinne, you're here on your own. Give yourself that that affection, that love, that compassion, that comfort. And I want to be really mindful that, again, I think our society has a very skewed relationship to attachment, independence, codependence. We're so like pushed right out of the frickin', womb to be like, nope, you need to be independent. You need to self-soothe. You need to, do everything on your own. Don't cry, don't feel, literally from the moment we pop out, it's like, soothe yourself, take care of yourself. Where it's like, no, that's not the way we're wired. We're wired for connection. And a healthy attachment is vital. That actually the irony is, if we do not grow up having healthy attachment, we become codependent. If we have healthy attachment, we become independent or interdependent. And so our society, our culture has got it completely backwards. And that's why a lot of adults are walking around like in pain, or in, highly codependent relationships. And we're having to learn, firstly, to embrace the fact that we need a healthy kind of attachment, but to figure out, what is it in us that needs to be healed so that we can have that healthy attachment, and to not be afraid of needing someone or wanting someone or having that affection or, attachment. We're very black and white. I often find that it's like you're either attached or you're completely on your own. And it's like, well, where is, like, I said this a week or two ago to someone. It's like, life isn't black or white. It tends to be mainly in the gray zone, where everything is in a stew. It's a stew of various colors. And if the colors are to represent different experiences and different emotions. So I can say for myself, because I've dealt with a lot of abandonment and a lot of loss in that way, that I can tell the part of me that has gone into like a fierce independence. And I'm still learning in some ways, like how to receive, because it's vulnerable, or how to allow someone to support. And, it's really like it's very nuanced, it's really subtle. And I think we all have the instinct to self-protect. So death and grief, I think, is a really interesting trigger for these things, catalyst, portal, opportunity, whatever you want to call it, because it will, it triggers the feeling of being alone. And I think we all have we all have the understanding at some point in our life of what that feels like, because a lot of people, a lot of humans, like, we don't want to be alone, right? If we find ourselves being alone, we look for the closest thing to distract us from being alone. If we can't be with people, then turn on the television, open up social media. But there's a very big difference to being alone and being lonely. Lonely is the lack of something there, the loss of something there, the feeling like I'm lonely and I'm on my own, and I'm disconnected from all things. Whereas the act of being alone, we might physically be alone, but actually there could be a fullness to that, right? There's a fullness because we're with ourselves. We're still connected energetically to things. We're most importantly connected to ourselves. We're connected to life. If we're in nature, we're connected to nature. So that I think also really deserves to be differentiated. But if I were to make it personal in this moment, God, there's nothing like death and loss and grief to just like really make you feel your humanity, really make you feel your heart. And what I've learned as I've grown older is don't become hard. Feel the pain, like feel the pain. It's so uncomfortable. And yet, like when you stay with it, like I can feel it. My heart is aching right now. And it brings up all of the kind of sadness and trauma of the first cat that died, that I was really close to and actually died from a very similar condition. It brings all of those memories back, and the visceral, I think I spoke about this last time, there is a visceralness to trauma and pain that our body just never forgets. We can forget a lot of things, but pain, suffering, trauma, wow, the body remembers it. And so it's like I feel the achiness in my heart right now, and I feel the tears wanting to come. And yet if I can just stay, like just stay, don't distract, don't be strong, don't be tough, don't be productive. Like just stay and feel it. There's something that's like exquisitely beautiful about it because it's tender and it's human and it's moving towards the core of my heart to where like the essence of who we are, which is love, is there. And when we touch it, it's like this, like, oh yeah, you're coming home. I've always believed that if we can stay with the pain, it's actually one of the greatest pathways back into ourselves. If we can stay with the wound, if we can stay with the fear, if we can stay with what's hard, with what our society says, no, don't feel that, you shouldn't. Toughen up, be strong, don't cry. Go fucking be successful out there. Excuse my language. It's going to happen on this podcast. We're moving away from home when we do that. Whereas home is go into it, go into the feeling. Go into the grief, go into the pain, the loss, the loneliness. And then you come back to yourself. And then there's the relief because firstly, you're feeling your experience, your human experience, which is so natural. There's nothing wrong with it. But then you're coming towards yourself. And that's where we can like give ourselves that internal hug. That's where we can access the love that we have for ourselves. And the worth that we innately have, that we've just forgotten because we've removed ourselves and we believe all of these beliefs and patterns and, you know, societal shoulds and shouldn'ts and all the traumas and the experiences that we've had. We believe all of those things, and we make this identity of who we think we should be or who we are, and, you know, in relationship to how we cope, survive in life. And it's like, no, go through all of those layers and come back home. And then there's this simplicity. And there's this peace, and there is this beautiful, tender vulnerability that is so powerful because it's so honest. It's so damn honest. There's no story, there's no drama, there's no complication. There's just this simplicity and honesty that just, this innocence almost, that's just here, that's just present, that's just, at least I can say from my experience, like that just wants to love. And I've learned this lesson so much. I got in an argument with my boyfriend last weekend, and it was a really profound experience for me because what I've learned, I couldn't do this in my 20s. I don't even know if I could do this in my 30s. I've learned this like maybe kind of my late 30s, and you know, now I'm 40, is I can be very stubborn and I can be very strong-willed. But what I've really learned is that like come back to love always come back to love. Put your ego aside. Put your pride aside. Whatever the story is, the being right, the being wrong, it's wrapped up in so many things, but none of it fucking matters if we can't come back to a place of love. And I've learned that so profoundly, to just keep coming back, because I can feel in my being that all I really want is to love. Because that is who we are, that is our essence. And so the more we go back to that place, the more we're going back home, the more at peace, the happier we will be. Because that's the coming back. The rest is just noise, and we have to go through it, and it's okay. It's okay to have the anger. It's okay to have the upset. It's okay to have all these human experiences, because they're all a catalyst for us learning and discovering more of who we are. But it's always about coming back to love. And so I feel so grateful that I'm learning that, and that I'm practicing that, and I'm embodying that. And, God, I'm going to fuck it up and, get stubborn about something or get hurt around something else. But can I keep on coming back? And so again, it's like confrontation, pain, loss. All of it is an invitation. All of it is an invitation. It's never to go, ooh, no, don't feel that, resist that, ignore that, go to something else, distract. We're missing it. And then it keeps on coming back around. It's like, oh, do you want to get it this time? Do you want to get it this time? And it's like we can't move beyond these lessons until we move through them. The only way out is through. And as I'm saying this, it's like I go back to okay, universe, think I've learned the freaking lesson of being alone. And it's like, okay, so take it now. Be in the experience now. Soften into it. Yep, today I'm alone. I'm alone with my grief today. But not really, right? In essence, not really. In physical form, yes. Can I soften into it? Can I stop resisting it? Can I stop being mad at it? Can I just let it melt me into a puddle, and can I just hold myself? Can I let love hold me in that? Can I let a greater, whatever that is greater than us, that is all of who we are, whatever you want to call that, the space around us, which is full, right? It's not empty. Again, the science of consciousness is proving that everything is full around us. Space isn't empty, so there's always something to hold us. There's always something to hold us. We're just so attached to physical arms. And so maybe it's a combination of both. It's I can physically hold myself. Of course, if I could receive a hug, that would feel so nourishing. But also, can I let just existence hold me? And it's a feeling, as I'm talking to you right now, it's a feeling, and I can feel the tenderness, and I can feel all of this energy moving through my body now. And there's so much love, and there's so much sadness. And, I remember in my meditation practice in my 20s, my teacher at the time said and I know this feeling so well. I forget the name of it. There's a term that it's when we experience sadness and joy in the same exact moment. And that to me is the human experience wrapped into a nutshell. Because it's when we can feel both, it is oddly the most divine feeling. Because it's so honest, there's no resistance, and it's holding the polarity, the duality of our human experience. And knowing that consciousness, love, moves beyond duality, moves beyond polarity. It's the isness, it's the oneness, it's the unity, it's the all that is. And we've got to remember that. And I think we're in a time right now where there is so much division. There is so much polarity. There is so much grief actually in the world, and anger, because I think people aren't feeling the grief. We are losing things left, right, and center. We're losing our reality. We're losing what we thought was normal. We're losing people that we love, for all sorts of reasons, be it death or conflict or, opposing opinions. We are experiencing loss and death and grief on so many levels right now. Can we feel it? Can we stay with it? Can we acknowledge that it exists, and can we be willing enough to just be with it with heart and move into a place of love? Because that's where we're going. All of this is a catalyst for that, for us to evolve consciously and to remember what love is, to remember what unity is, to remember what we're actually made of, not who we've been told we are. There are a lot of walls crumbling. There are a lot of illusions breaking. The veil is being lifted, and we are going to remember who we are. But the only way is to move through it. The only way is to look at it and not turn a blind eye. Not be comfortable. Get fucking uncomfortable. Because that's the key to liberation. Get uncomfortable. Stay with it. Breathe through it. Feel it. Feel it. Feel it. Feel it. For decades we've been taught, don't feel. Feel it. And if you want to feel free, and if you want to feel happy, and if you want to feel at peace, in my opinion, in my experience, that's the only way, is we've got to walk through the fucking flames. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you for hearing. Thank you for being there through the ether as I feel my grief and my humanity within that. And God, may it just open me up. I don't want to live in a hardened world anymore. I don't want to be hard. I want to be soft. I know that I get stronger from an internal perspective, not tougher, not harder, not armored. I get more powerful from the inside out the more that I open my heart, the more that I soften, the more that I expand. May it just be an invitation to be with your own pain, your own suffering, grief, loss, confusion, anger, whatever it is. I invite you to feel. I invite you to just stay. Even if it's just that, just stay. Don't leave. Just stay, breathe, feel it, move through it. See if you can return to a place of love. Sending you all love from afar.